The new event is just around the corner and we have a bunch of info already about it. From leaks and stuff, we know things that are going to happen on the map, areas that you're going to be like teleported or pulled into, stuff to do with the 0 point, stuff to do with the rocket, and a ton more. Alright guys, welcome back to another Fortnite video. How are you guys doing? I hope you're having a good day. If you are, hit that like button down below. But today it is time to go over the event stuff, because obviously the event is just around the corner. It's going to be happening soon and it's going to be a humongous event, so I'd figured we go over a ton of the info that we already know about it. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the event, but we do know a bunch of details so far. And again, there's a ton of stuff, so be sure to watch until the end to fully know what's going on. And even if you're curious about like the event date and stuff like that, we're going to be talking about all of that. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe for more videos coming out, especially when season 11 comes around. And on top of that, if you want to help support me, be sure to use code TheLlamaSir in the item shop. But without further ado here, let's get on into it with the first thing I want to talk about, and that is basically some sound files that were found. And also thanks to Fortnite and AsrielDev on Twitter for finding a bunch of these leaks and things. But yeah, the sound files themselves are very interesting. Now apparently some of these we weren't actually able to hear, but there's still some interesting names for them. Like for example, Night Night Bus Pass by Q, and Night Night is the code name for like the event, I think, and stuff like that. But the Bus Pass by Q is very interesting because that obviously has to do with the battle bus, but did they make a new sound specifically for this event, or is it pointing towards the bus actually being a part of the event itself? And I think that'll make more sense once we start to talk about the other things. But for example, you also have something called Klaxon Q, Klaxon Final Q, which I'm not exactly sure what that even means, to be honest, which if you're like me, you've never seen that word before, so I decided to look it up on Google, and it's actually an electric horn or a similar loud warning device, which would seem to have to do with the rocket itself, maybe the warning sound of the rocket about to launch. And that also goes hand in hand with like the next stuff, which is like launch queue, launch warning queue, and stuff like that. You also have sound mix and steam buildup, which would also seem to have to do with the rocket. So yeah, even more proof that the rocket is going to be a big part of this event and has got to be like one of the main things in it. There's even more leaks that we're going to talk about here in just a sec, but yeah, I wanted to bring that up first as a way of easing into the leaks. Now before we get into more of the leaks, I do want to talk about the predicted date for this event, because the date itself is still up in the air, but obviously we have some predictions for the likely times of the event, especially since this event seems to be different from every other event in the past. Now what do I mean by that? Well, basically there's an idea that I had and a lot of other people have had as well, that the event will actually be at the end of the season. Now why do we think that? Well, obviously if you've watched my videos, I've talked a bunch about how the season 11 seems to have a new map coming around, and if you've missed my previous videos, I've explained all of it back then, so I'm not going to go over that stuff again. But specifically, when you take a look at the end date for season 10, we were officially told the end date is October 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Why 2 p.m. Eastern time? That's such a weird time for a season to end, and it's nothing like when the other seasons have ended. All 9 of the seasons that we've had before have never ended around 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's like right in the middle of the day. Also with that, Fortnite pointed out something interesting. That's around a similar time to when events have happened in the past. So the popular idea going around is that this event will be on October 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern time at the end of the season and will lead directly into the next season. Now again, that's just a predicted date. We don't know the official date quite yet, but that would make a lot of sense. But moving on here, let's talk about something interesting that supposedly could be happening during this event. Now again, this isn't 100% for sure. Things could definitely change, but according to AsrielDev and according to leaks and things like that, it seems like one of the main things that will happen during this event is that players will be pulled into the 0 point. That's right guys, and again, the 0 point is the big rift at the center of Loot Lake. It's like the center of this season. It is what caused all of the crazy stuff to happen with the time mixing up and all of that, so it would 100% make sense that it would be part of this event, and getting pulled into it somehow would make a lot of sense as well. Now there's more stuff about that. So what AsrielDev says is that players during the event will be under the influence of a modified item. The name of the gadget is basically Shadowstone, which is interesting that Shadowstone is the same type of item from the past when we've had Shadowstones in games, but again, it could just be, you know, a code name or hidden name for it. But he also goes on to say that players may be invisible during the event. That's not confirmed, but also that players won't be able to move, jump, or crouch, probably when this thing is happening where you're pulled into the 0 point. He also says that players, trees, and tomatoes for some reason will be pulled into the 0 point as well. And then like he speculated speculated that this could be where the gadget comes into play, and like having a gadget makes a lot of sense too, with the scientist and the visitor building all of the stuff that they're building. Maybe the gadget could also be like the rocket or have something to do with the rocket. That's why the 0 point gets pulled into it. I don't exactly know, but after that you'll be transferred to a encrypted UMAP, which will be used for a cinematic. And also with that, UMAP doesn't necessarily mean like a new map. Like he says, a UMAP is an in-game file that contains parts of a map/world, like a building or point of interest, which I believe is similar to like if you guys were there for the butterfly event, I'm expecting it to be similar to that, where you're like teleported to a specific area for this cinematic to happen. Now as for what that cinematic is, you know, that's up in the air. If you guys have ideas, leave your comments down below. And I do have some ideas myself, but I think I might save those for one of my next videos coming up. But let's keep it going here. We have a lot more stuff to talk about, and one of those things is something called Ruined Town. Now this is technically a point of interest on the map, and as you guys know, points of interest are like retail row and things like that, but Ruined Town, from what it looks like, doesn't have a lot of details to it as of right now. All it really looks to be is basically a street, which is a little bit confusing because obviously this would maybe have to do with the event. Maybe this is one of the points of interest you get teleported to. Maybe it's like an alternate version of like a part of the map. I don't know. Or it could be like a ruined part of the map from when the rocket is flying around. Either way though, I still wanted to bring that up because if it's a new point of interest, it has to have some meaning and has to be used for something. And with that being said, if it does have to do with the rocket, we have a ton of things confirming that the rocket is going to be flying around. Again, we have all of those sound files for the alarms. There's even more sound files like for launch sounds themselves. So we do know like that more than likely the rocket is going to be flying around the map. And then on top of that, there's also stuff like vent smoke animations and lights going off. And that'll likely be the start of the event because we heard from the sound recording files that were in the game. If you missed my previous video about all of that stuff, there will be a link to it down below in the description. But we know that the scientist and the visitor have been looking through these like different timelines and things and working on a device that could very well be the rocket, but they're going to probably launch the rocket to start all of this stuff and try to set time back to how it was, which then could lead to us getting pulled into the 0 point, and then maybe that sets all of the things back to normal or something like that, or we get sent to a different timeline. Either way, it's going to be very interesting overall. And then after that, guys, let's talk about some leaks about the LTM itself, because as you guys know, when an event comes around, there's a special LTM for it, and this time the LTM is called The End, and we've covered that a little bit, but there's other details about this. So basically how it's going to work is that it is going to be a large team mode similar to past events, so probably something along the lines of Team Rumble. However, there can be a max of 80 players in each match and a minimum players of 40, with again 2 teams since it is a large team mode, and then obviously the max team size for each team would be 40. On top of that, it also seems that you can have a squad size of 4, which is pretty standard stuff, but that'll get you ready for what to expect from the LTM itself before you hop into the event. Now after that, then another leak that I found particularly interesting is the loading screen for this LTM. If you take a look at the loading screen here, you can see that it's basically that same image that Fortnite tweeted a few weeks ago about halfway through the season, and we kept having theories about it. Obviously it was in Dusty Depot and they were working on like the brutes and stuff like that. However, if you take a look at them and actually compare them side to side, you will see that the LTM loading screen, or the event loading screen specifically, is missing the brute. That's right, they removed it from there, which is very, very odd. Why would they decide to do that? It could maybe be just to remove the focus from the brute itself, but at the same time, brutes have played a large role in like the story. Again, if you go back into the visitor's base and stuff like that, you can see them investigating the brutes on the screens, and it shows that loading screen where there's like a virus going through the brute. Also, we've seen the brutes, you know, exploding when they land on the map. There's also parts that the visitor seems to be investigating inside of his base. There's a lot of stuff surrounding that overall, yet we don't really know how it plays into the event itself, besides maybe him being investigating, you know, technology, but then who is making the brutes? I don't know, it's very odd all around, but that loading screen being different is fairly peculiar. And then the final thing that I want to talk about is something that not really many people have been focusing on, and that is the building that is getting built inside of the void. Now again, nobody's really focusing on this, but I think it could be a very big part of this event. I mean, this was added fairly recently that it was starting to get built, and it's very odd that it's getting built inside of the void. I think the scientist and the visitor are behind this building, and it could house a potential device to work with the event, because remember guys, this is the one location that didn't work with the Rift Zone, meaning that again, it's unique from every other Rift Zone that we have had, which would make sense that they would decide to build something at this particular place because of how unique it is. And on top of that, we have enough time now for them to build up whatever is happening here, but it has to happen soon because if we are going to be getting a new map, whatever is getting built has to be finished. So yeah, I found that very interesting. If you guys have ideas on what this could be as well, be sure to leave them down below in the comments. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it for today's video and everything we know, and pretty much everything we know so far about the event. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Season 11 videos and stuff coming out soon. And on top of that, you can check out some of my previous videos on the screen now, such as on the left, going over a bunch of stuff like overtime rewards and things like that. And then below that, another fun video I'm sure you'll enjoy. But again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one.